Thanks for tuning in to The Real Deal Show, brought to you by ebodyboarding.com and Tribe Boards.
Hey folks, Reale back at you once again, and I told you when we finished part 3 we would be back for part 4. Here we are with the legendary JP Patterson. Welcome back.
That just means that I'm old, right?
You're old. What am I then?
Legend junior.
Almost as old.
Yeah, junior legend status.
So we talked about a lot of stuff over the first 3 episodes. We went over your harrowing event of getting caught inside at Waimea, and we had a lot of people that asked about the Wedge, your years at the Wedge. We did touch on that.
Gotcha, yeah.
But, we talked about, I think, the Wedge was probably like the closest thing you could get to North Shore power.
Sure.
Which obviously was kind of your jam when you were there. You loved the bigger, more powerful waves. So you gravitated towards the Wedge. What was the first year that you remember surfing Wedge?
So I came over in 82 and, I moved here in 82.
Yep.
But the first time I ever surfed the Wedge, I was with Wayne Brown of Alita Wetsuits.
Yeah.
And I come over, I think it was like 81 or somewhere in there.
Okay.
And so he had sponsored me, and he was all excited about getting into the whole bodyboarding scene because he saw how it was growing and the magazine was coming out and everything. And he was going to advertise in it. And he had his setup. His shop was down on Main Street in Huntington Beach, 2 blocks up from the pier. So he goes, hey, let's go get lunch. So myself, he and his wife, Fran, we go down to the pier, and I forget the name of the restaurant, but it was super fancy. It's Duke's now.
Okay.
But back then it was something else, and I forget the name. But anyway, we're sitting there eating lunch and talking, and just barrels are coming in, just south swell, big south swells pushing through
sweeping through the pier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wayne keeps saying, "Oh man, the Wedge is gonna be good. The Wedge is gonna be good. Are you ready? You gonna be ready?" And so we get down there, and it's big. And so I get out there, and I had mowed through this giant plate of food. I forget what I had, but I do remember I had cheesecake for dessert.
Yeah.
So I'm just Polynesian paralysis. I've eaten so much, and we get down to the Wedge, paddle out, catch a few waves, and then a big set comes in. And I sit way out there, and I'm trying to impress Wayne and Fran, because they just sponsored me.
So you paddle out the Wedge. You're sitting way out the back,
right?
Okay.
Yeah, there was a couple knee boarders, and there were a few other people out. Not a lot, but it was maybe, on the face. If I remember, I was like 20. 20
so
foot,
Hawaiian
good size.
style, 8 to 10.
Yeah, to the tree.
To the tree.
20 feet face.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I ended up catching this one wave and just got hammered on the inside. The wave blew out the zipper. I had a short sleeve full. Blew out the zipper.
Oh no.
The wetsuit comes down.
This is bad advertising for
so,
Alita wetsuits.
Well, no, but the Wedge was so strong,
yes.
I just got slammed, and so my wetsuit comes down. It comes off of one sleeve, but I got the leash on the other, so now it's tangled up in that. It's down to my waist, and one of my fins had blown up onto my leg.
Oh, no.
Instead of it coming off, now it's wrapped. The strap is wrapped around my calf.
Oh wow!
And pointing out to the side. And I'm trying to swim, and the waves are pushing me in, and then the current's sucking me, the undertow's pulling me back out. And I'm going in and out, and I'm about ready to drown and everything. And I come up, and I go, holy smokes. And Wayne goes, well, and I get my wetsuit back on. And he was able to teeth it back together, place it back together, get it slid back. I'm like, okay, go get another one.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, oh, geez. And I'm like, oh, man. And I ended up sitting down. I go, I got to rest for a minute. I sat down, and I was like, he's all excited and this and that. And while he's, I'm just very calmly with my fin. I had my fin in my hands, and I'm digging a hole because I feeling like I'm about ready to puke.
Oh no, because of all the food.
Because of all the food and being tumbled.
got worse.
So anyway, plus it was cold.
Were you
and I had
wearing
ice cream
yeah.
headache?
Oh
so,
gosh,
it was a mess. But
were you wearing Viper fins at that point?
I believe I was. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
It's the early days with
have
Viper
been.
fins.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I was still with Scott at that point.
Okay, still wearing.
No,
Scott
I'm
fins.
sorry. This is before Scott came out with fins. So, yeah, if it was the early '80s, I think it was Vipers.
Okay.
So, because I started wearing Vipers in '81.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so you put
So that was my first time out at the Wedge.
Of course. I think.
And then we always didn't, it reminded me so much of Sandy Beach, when it gets big. It just
Shore
slams
break.
right there. And,
Slam, but much colder.
But colder.
Yeah.
And also with the refracting wave.
Yeah, right.
Which
different.
took a little timing to learn. But it was just cool because you got out there back then, nobody would grab the big ones. And so they couldn't get into them.
Now, I think, nowadays, guys, like, they take off on the side wave. That's
Right.
like the thing is, like, take off on the side wave and backdoor the peak. But I don't remember. First time I went to the Wedge was 1987, and you were a fixture out there at that point.
Well, I was living in Huntington.
So you were there every
time.
Big South Swell, and you were always there. But I don't remember guys surfing the side wave very much. Maybe a couple, but do you remember that?
They were catching the side wave,
Were they?
but not when it was really big because a lot of times it didn't connect all the way through because the side, the main peak came too far over.
Yeah.
And hey, I remember Pat Caldwell.
Yeah.
And so it was me, Pat, and Keith, and Keith used to like the song Science.
Yes.
Science.
You're right, Thomas Dolby song.
Yeah. And so anyway, whenever we'd pull into a big barrel or something, it was just a big closeout, we'd yell, Science! Yeah. And so here comes Pat, and how tall he is and lanky and everything. And
the Noodle. That was his nickname.
And so he paddles into this side wave on this big-ass wave at the Wedge, and he stands up.
Oh my gosh!
And pulls in
with his fins on. With
his fins
by the
on.
Way.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And I still remember seeing
wow,
that.
That's sick.
He just pulls in.
Yeah.
And he made it pretty far.
Well, and, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, at the Wedge, there's a big long rock jetty that sticks out at, I want to say, almost a 45-degree angle from the sand, and the south swell comes in, refracts off that jetty, and rebounds at a 90-degree angle to the beach and meets up with the next wave behind it, effectively almost doubling the height of the next wave and forming a peak. So sometimes that refraction off the jetty is so strong you can actually catch the refracting wave and meet up with the next wave that's coming on and backdoor the peak. So, sometimes it takes a lot of nerve because you're on a 2 to 3 foot high little refracting wave,
right? And
there's a 20-foot high wave just jacking over you.
Sure.
And you get slammed. So tell me about some of your. Did you ever have some horrendous slams? And by the way, before we get into that,
speaking of getting slammed,
JP has gifted us with some frosty beverages here. So we're going to crack open a libation while JP regales us with stories of Wedge poundings. And cheers, my man.
Salute.
Salute. Okay. So, Wedge poundings.
We haven't sat down and had a beer together in a while.
Well, this is certainly
good?
not a beer, but this is really good, man.
It? Good.
If you want to sponsor the Real Deal Show, truly, I'm all ears.
Modelo.
we're open to it. So
I'll wear the shirt and everything.
I'm sure the marketing team at Truly and Modelo are watching this.
Oh, absolutely.
With great interest.
They're going, oh yeah, we got to sponsor that show. So they probably have millions. Well, they probably have they probably got a couple. And a couple people watching.
Spread the word, people.
Yeah.
So Wedge. Wedge. You must have seen some crazy stuff, endured some crazy wipeouts.
I lived in Huntington Beach, so every time, and I worked at Alita Wetsuits. I worked on Main Street in Huntington Beach, so you could almost see the waves from the shop, and And if not, you just take a 5-minute walk down the street and you can check it out.
You knew there was swell at Huntington. It was going to be double that size at the Wedge.
And
for sure.
And so I would go down there, and there was a big, I think it was 80. Whenever the pier went down, at 86 or 87.
Yep.
Somewhere in there, Huntington Beach Pier went down, and that was on a Big South.
Heavy.
And the Wedge was just macking.
Oh man.
And it was good. And so back then the jetty had telephone poles on it that had the power that supplied power to the lighthouse, the little light beacon out at the end of the jetty, so the boats wouldn't crash into it. But
I remember
they'd crash into it anyway. But let's just park our 64-foot yacht on those rocks, dear. Anyway, but. So you would line up on the pole, and then once you knew how big the waves were, you could kind of I got to paddle out to the 6th pole or the 7th pole or the 8th pole or the 10th pole.
Those are your lineup
or
markers.
The 11th pole, and you get out to the 11th pole, and now it's damn big, and you could look across when the swells would raise you up. You look across over the Wedge jetty. So the Wedge is, for those viewers, there's a channel for Newport Harbor. Yep. On the South Jetty is Big Corona. On the North Jetty is the Wedge. So you're out here at the Wedge, and you could look over the jetty to the other jetty, and that was like an indicator because the wave would hit there first.
Yep.
And then if you knew what you were doing, and you kind of here it comes. So then you kind of motor out a little bit further because to get away outside the pack.
Hold that thought. We have a customer. Hey, could you go around to the warehouse? Thank you. This is live podcasting, folks. Go ahead.
So anyway, there was a couple times we were out, 10, 11, 12 poles out.
Yeah, so that was the gauge for a swell. Oh, it's an 8th pole swell, 10th pole, 11 poles out. That's freaking huge.
Well,
man.
it was, guys were calling it like 30, 35-foot faces.
Oh, man.
And that's big for
What
the Wedge.
year was that?
I like I said, it was like mid 80s.
Okay.
It was the swell that took out the pier.
Got it. Because, I asked Fred
took out
Simpson.
a couple piers, actually.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And it was a south swell. Do you remember the month? Summertime.
I think it was like season. August.
Okay.
Usually when we would get the south swells, August, September,
Got
October.
it.
And,
I think,
hurricane season.
Yeah. Well, Hurricane Morey, which was 2014.
Yeah.
Fred Simpson, who I interviewed on this show, told me that was the biggest swell he had ever seen at the Wedge. So this must be close.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that, to me, in the years I've lived in Southern Cal,
right?
Excuse me, that was the biggest. That was the biggest south swell I have seen in my 35 years. But anyway, please continue.
Yeah. So, but a lot of guys wouldn't be out. But I think the scaredest I ever been out at the Wedge. It always seems to, right about the time sun's going down.
Yep.
Everybody's starting to move in. And it always seemed that that's when the biggest waves would come.
Oh, of course.
And it's like, it's okay. It's getting dark out here, and people are leaving, and there's not so many people on the beach anymore, and it's time to go in. And holy crap!
Rescue is not going to happen.
And now, it's feathering off the end of the jetty and just white water pounding and just washing over the rocks and all the way out at the very end. And you're just like, jeez. And you paddle out and you paddle out and you paddle out, and then the swell goes by.
Yeah.
And then you got to make your way back in.
Yep.
And then it does it again. But there was a couple times where it seemed like, man, every time I got to go in earlier because I keep getting stuck out after dark, and it's too spooky. I mean, it's hectic when it's dark out there because there's no lights on that beach. You know? So you got the big houses there that have some light, but back then there wasn't anything really that you could kind of get an idea what was going on.
Well, so let me ask you, when's the last time you rode the Wedge?
Oh gosh, it's been
years.
It's been a while.
And is it just life got in the way, or you just don't have any interest? I mean, that place is a circus now.
Oh, well, that's the other thing
circus.
too. Is that it's the surfers started moving in and doing stuff. Soft surfboards really kind of took in.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about people doing podcasts and doing crazy stuff, and right around the time that the whole Jackass
social media,
and the Jackass thing came in, and it's like, oh, I can do something crazy too.
Yes.
And so now here they all come, and guys are on stand-up paddle boards out at the Wedge, and the guys are trying to ride long boards, 9-foot long boards, and then of course the soft surfboards, and then of course the short boards.
Yep.
And so now you're out there, and here comes a guy or two guys on surfboards.
Yeah.
And they're trying to, they're taking off and screaming at each other and all this stuff. And
skimmers, guys. Skimming.
Oh, and that, so now you got people coming in this way, and you got the skimboarders coming out this way, trying to hit that side wave we were talking about.
Yep.
And, who's got the right of way? And it's my beach. No, it's not. You're a tourist. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And, it would get crazy.
Well, I remember, the early days at the Wedge, when I started riding it in the late 80s, there was a handful of bodyboarders that were, yourself included, Matt Allen, Mike Libajeski, Dan Taylor, of course, Ron Zabel, that were regulars out there. And they, they gained the respect of the local body surfing and kneeboarding crew. There were some hardcore kneeboard guys, Bill Sharp, Ron Romanowski, Terry Wade, who had been riding the place for years on the biggest days, charging, and they didn't take too kindly to this infusion of other boogies, us.
Yep.
So you really, really had to show respect and humility to gain their acceptance, And now it's just a free for all.
Yeah. Now there's no respect. There's nobody's trying to. There's no camaraderie. The other thing too, there was some camaraderie even amongst between the bodyboarders and the kneeboarders. Yeah. It was similar to like what we talked about over in Hawaii, where you show up in a new spot and you're the outsider.
Yeah.
And but if you catch the biggest wave of the day and you show some respect and you wait your turn and you're humble about it, then you slowly gain acceptance into the lineup. But there's none of that anymore. It's guys show up from who knows where, and they just paddle out, and this is my spot now. And it's like, wait a minute, who are you? Where'd you come from? And
I know,
why are you on that toy surfboard?
Yeah, that's I think I really do think social media changed everything because people started seeing the Wedge on a regular basis. They saw these basically people trying to be like stuntmen and do crazy stuff out there. And they wanted to be famous too. Right. So they show up, they don't know the hierarchy or the pecking order, and they just charge out there without the ability to really deal with it. Because, as you know, good friends of ours who are Wedge legends have been seriously wounded out there, like hurt to the point of paralysis. Ron Zabel is one that comes to mind.
He's lucky.
Yeah, I know other guys.
Fred Simpson.
Yep, Fred.
He took it on the head. And he quit. He quit riding because of it.
Yeah, and there's been other guys that have been seriously, permanently injured that are very knowledgeable about that spot. So it's not to be toyed with.
Don McCready. From Australia.
Yeah.
He came over and he broke his leg body surfing it. And broke his leg, and the fin spun his leg around.
Yeah.
And he had this spiral thing about, and he limped around for a long time. He went through a bunch of surgeries and
wow.
And the wedge will tear your clothes off without that fast.
The dirty old Wedge.
It's a nasty place.
Isn't that what what's his name?
That's what they called it.
Bruce,
on Endless Summer.
Yeah.
Endless Summer. Yeah, dirty old Wedge.
And they've made a documentary about it. Look it up. Yep. It's on, I think, on Amazon Prime Video. You can rent that movie. It's worth a watch. It really is. Great. And there's also a really good documentary about how the Wedge was made and why it was made. It all goes back to the 1920s, and this young kid that was killed, basically fell off a boat and sank and drowned. It's a really interesting story, but I digress. We've been talking about the Wedge instead of JP Patterson, but that's part of your...
One more thing, you were talking about how social media has changed the Wedge, but back right as social media was kind of starting to get on, the 6 o'clock news would show up and started so now you had news vans down there, and ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, and then you started getting all these other shows like 60 Minutes and I don't know, just you name it.
They want to capture the carnage.
They would, and they'd interview some people, and of course everybody was trying to catch the biggest wave. Yeah. But I remember one time, I think it was like a Friday. It was really big. It was the first day of a swell. And so all the news vans were down there. Well, it made 6 o'clock news, and then it made the national news, and then it went international.
Oh, wow.
So, excuse me, whose idea was to bring beer? Cheers. So now you get there on Saturday, and you had to park like 2 miles away.
Oh, yeah.
Because, the Wedge, there's no parking lot there.
Right.
It's just all residential. And I literally, I had an idea that it was going to be bad. I took my bike and threw my bike in the back of my truck, drove down to the Wedge, and sure enough, I was like 2 miles away. And then to get out, once everything's all done, it starts to get dark.
It's like leaving
now you got
a concert.
Thousands of people. I mean, literally thousands of people on the beach, and they all get back in their cars and they're all leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a baseball game or something.
That's gnarly, man.
And but it was great. You'd be out there, and somebody would catch a wave, and you'd hear the whole crowd. I mean, thousands of people going, "Woo!"
Applause.
And you could kind of tell if they made it or not.
It was like a gladiator pit.
It was.
Right?
It was full on.
And the Romans were sitting there watching the carnage and cheering for people's demise.
Exactly. and give us more. So,
right. More. And it's still kind of like that, I think.
And I think that's what really brought a lot more of the... and again, that whole jackass type attitude, I want to be famous, so I'll do something stupid. I'll let my,
that nearly kills me.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
But anyway, so that wraps up the Wedge segment.
Okay, so
what are we talking about now?
Yeah, so we had dove into your beginnings with Mattel. So Mattel had hired you. You told us the Milt Zablo story, and then basically you became sort of the team manager among other things. But I was a pro rider still at that point for Morey. I'd been with the company for years.
Yep.
You were sort of now my boss. You were the guy. You were the guy in charge of determining what sort of contracts.
And what was the first thing I did? What was the first thing?
Well, I will just say that you gave me the best contract I had had in my career.
Like a 30% raise.
Yes,
something
which was
like
fantastic. That. So cheers again.
And travel fun. And photo incentive. And paid your contest fees.
You did.
Full ride scholarship.
I know, that's why you're here, because I have so much love for you. And you gave me, you upped the game for me as a pro bodyboarder. And, I knew I was sort of in the twilight of my bodyboarding career, because at that point I was in my early 30s.
Right.
And you went to bat for me. We did this contract. It was a 3-year deal.
Yeah. That
got cut after 2, which was a clause in the contract that you tried to help me get rid of. They wouldn't. Yeah. Have it, but in any case, those 2 years were fantastic.
Oh, they were insane.
So
tell
us about your tenure.
Getting back to you, and you deserve that contract is the whole thing. And
thanks,
you were waning in your years, but you still had a lot of relevance, and you were still widely known. And
thanks.
The nice thing too is that you represented the East Coast, and I didn't have anybody else on the team that really fit that bill.
Yeah, that was my ace in the hole.
Right.
And, through my whole career.
Plus you're eloquent. You can actually do an interview.
Thanks.
You're halfway good looking before you lost all your hair.
At one point in my life.
You were marketable, I guess.
Sure, thank you.
Not to cheapen it, but don't sell yourself
Well,
short.
thanks, man.
You know, it's not like I just, picked up a stray dog off the curb and, gave him a home.
Well,
you had earned it. You had earned it at that point.
So the fun part about you being the team manager, JP, and we touched on this at the end of the last show, is that we got to go on some trips together.
Yes, we did.
So a couple of those trips were full of hijinks. Let's start with a couple.
How about all of them?
Many of them.
I mean, even before that, anytime we traveled, let's no. We got to go back. We got to go back to the very. So now go back to 80. What was the first contest?
Oh my gosh,
82. That you showed up and
sure 82.
And they had the condos at Kuilima.
That's right, Kuilima.
And you know where I'm going.
Oh my gosh,
you know this one. So
this is
now.
I discussed this. I will link that above. Again, the video about the first pipe contest. I'll link that on the top of the screen. Go ahead.
So anyway, now we go, and the contest was over, or it was no.
I think it was. We were still in the waiting period or something. Maybe
right.
Yeah.
And so now there was a get together at the Kuilima condos,
where we were staying,
and Mary Lee and Mary Marsbanian and the Morey crew.
Yep.
Brought some food over, and everybody was there. The Australians were there. The Japanese were there. The South Africans were there.
Yeah.
You were there.
It was like an Olympic village for bodyboarding.
Yeah, all the Hawaiians were there.
Yeah.
And so now, here comes the beer, and here comes some more beer. And
which, by the way, I didn't drink.
No, you didn't drink
all
back then.
in those days.
Yeah, but so now somebody threw something at somebody, and all hell broke loose.
I remember.
Anything that was in the refrigerator, we're talking mayonnaise, ketchup, we're talking Oreo cookies.
Oreos.
We're talking 3-liter bottles.
Untwisted Oreos.
Dave Kniff grabs and Ben Severson grabbed the 3-liter bottles of Coke, shake it up, put their thumb on it, and spray it. This is inside the condo. In the condo. And who's that up there? All the Australians. They had gained the high ground up on the balcony that overlooked the living room, and they had all this ammunition on the side in the form of paperback books. Remember that?
Yes.
There was like this big bookcase full of just paperback books.
Oh my God.
And they're whipping them down at people, and I turn around and I look, and the Japanese are like sneaking into their room and locking the door, and here's Jack Lindholm over here, and he's at the dining room table. He's got the tuna casserole, and he's kind of like this, and he's mowing into it because he was hungry.
What's going on around him?
And I think it was Ben or somebody grabs a tub of soft serve butter, which was fairly new back then, takes a big old handful and just goes like this and just strafes the whole. And so you've got every form of food flying.
Yeah.
And just a mess. And then either security came in or Mary Lee Christensen came in, and all I remember is running out the slider onto the golf course and making my escape.
Making your escape.
The
statute of limitations has ended.
It had to have gone on for what, about 45 minutes?
It was
or
a
so?
long one, yeah.
It was.
I remember somebody poured the 2-liter bottle of Coke on a roll of toilet paper and soaked it.
That's right.
And then just chucked it like TP'd the inside of the condo with Coke-soaked toilet paper.
And then, what's that? Somebody screaming bloody murder. Well, because they're in the bathroom upstairs, and one of the Aussies had grabbed a steak knife or some kind of a knife and is poking it in the door.
Michael Lamb.
He's stabbing the door, doing the who was
Jack Nicholson
Jack Nicholson.
Johnny.
Yeah, and he's stabbing the door. And the guy's going, go away. I'll be in there. Just give me about an hour. I'll be in there. And just terrifying whoever was in the bathroom.
And
it was hilarious.
That was the beginning of the end of the very short-lived experiment of putting the riders up in condos at the Turtle Bay. Yeah. So, it was a short-lived little experiment there.
Something to do with the security deposit being revoked.
Something about like that. Yeah, that was awful behavior.
People got no sense of humor.
No. So, okay, fast forwarding to now we're in the late 90s, and so we had a trip that we organized. It was a photo trip to Western Australia.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a long
trip.
way from here in Southern California. So it was JP, myself, Mike Stewart, I believe Lanson and Spencer.
Yep.
Lanson Ronquillo, Spencer Skipper. And we were going down there with Brian Beelman, photographer, to shoot photos and get ad shots. I have no idea why we were going all the way to Western Australia to do this. We could have gone down to like Mexico and like a 2-hour flight.
I think it's because I'd never been there and I really wanted to go. And maybe I think Mike actually suggested it.
Maybe we had contests down there in Australia, and we thought
no, there was no contest. No, we were in Western Oz all by ourselves.
Yeah, but I
remember that Mike made the call to what's his name, Surfline Collins,
Sean Collins. Yep.
And we almost went back to the East Coast.
Oh.
Remember that?
No.
Yeah, we considered that because the surf was not so good on the west side.
Okay.
But that was a great trip.
So
great weather.
We flew to Western Australia. It's a long trip from here. It's like 15 hours to Sydney and then another like 5-hour flight to Perth. And then it's a 3-hour drive to Margaret River, which is where we were based. So
on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah. So we flew into Perth, and we rented 2 brand new SUVs.
Toyota Land Cruisers, but they called them Tierras or something.
Tarago. Well, that's a minivan, the Tarago.
Oh, well.
In any case, they drive the vehicles, the rental car company drives them to the front of the airport, and we have all our gear, and we start loading the gear into these SUVs.
You're going to bring this up, aren't you?
And I think it was you.
My friend.
Like packing, you're in the back seat trying to like reorganize everything so it all fits, and you pushed on something so hard.
The seats in the very back, they were jump seats, and they folded up to the side.
Right.
Instead of nowadays they fold forward or they fold flat. These folded up to the side. So I folded up to the side. There's a strap hanging down, and you got to pull you got to hook it on and keep it from coming down.
Right.
And it wouldn't quite reach, so I gave it a little push.
Oh boy. And the rear window shatters on this Toyota Land Cruiser. It was a brand new Toyota Land Cruiser.
It popped out first.
It popped out.
And when it shattered when it hit the ground.
Oh, that's much better. So immediately, we were 5 minutes within possession of these vehicles. But luckily, the guy who brought the vehicle to us was still there because we were still signing the paperwork for the rentals.
And he goes, right, Mike, follow me.
Yeah, so we had to drive to the window place to get it fixed.
Get a new window put in.
So like 2 hours. I don't know how long we were there.
It was a while.
So we're at the window place, and they fixed the rear window. Thankfully, it was like the middle of the day on a weekday. Fortunately, they were open. And then we make the long 3-hour drive to Margaret River, and we were staying at a caravan park in Margaret River.
Yep.
Preveley, as I remember, Preveley Caravan Park, I think was the name of it.
Very cool place.
Really cool, like right near the main break in Margaret River, and we set up
cabins.
Camp.
We had 2 cabins.
Yep, we had cabins, which they call caravans down there. It's like basically like sort of a double wide sort of mobile home sort of thing, but it's fully self-contained and it's in a nice area. So we're cruising there.
An eucalyptus forest. It's in an old
in a forest.
It's beautiful.
Like right near the beach. Like we could have walked to the main break in Margaret River, and the box, which is just across the channel from the main break in Margaret River, were very close. So, but we were going to base ourselves there and move up and down the coast. So, some of the hijinks that happened in the midst of that week, more damage to rent-a-cars.
A lot of damage.
Do you remember? I remember 2 incidents in particular.
So you had the broken window.
3 now that I think about it.
And okay, let's just talk about the car I was driving.
Yeah.
So broke the window within 5 minutes.
Yep.
Mike and I were out exploring one day and got a flat tire. Well, the rock went through the sidewall, so we had to buy a brand new tire.
Oh my god!
And we had to change the tire out in the bush.
Yeah.
And we get back to camp, and everybody's wondering where the hell we were because we didn't have cell phones, and I don't even think it would have worked down there. Even if we did, we're out in the middle of nowhere. And
it's pretty isolated back then.
so there was a new tire, and that was like $600 or $700
on the Mattel tab.
Oh yeah,
all of this
Barbie's
on the Mattel
credit
tab.
card. Woohoo, baby,
getting jacked.
he was my friend, and you love that thing.
Oh my gosh.
And then let's see what else. Oh, and then Mike Stewart and I and Brian Bielman were out exploring one afternoon. We were looking for a new brake, so we head south. We're driving along the beach. Down there, you can drive on the beach.
Right.
And we got to this one point, and the wind would come around the point, and we'd come this way. Well, when it made this snowdrift of sand,
man.
and we're driving along, and everything's fine. 4-wheel drive, whoomp. And that fast, we're
Sunk.
on the floorboard.
Yes.
And the wheels are spinning and everything. So it's like, oh, okay, well, no problem. We're 4-wheel drive. We'll get out of this. And we dug and we dug and we tried to let air out of the wheels and we tried to do all this stuff. And we got to a point we let too much air out of the wheels. So the wheels, the rubber's like this and the rim is spinning inside. And at that point, we're like, we're done. And so we hide everything in the bushes, and Brian Bielman buries thousands of dollars worth of camera gear in the sand.
Real isolated area though,
Yeah,
but there's
yeah.
fishermen that kind of cruise up and down that beach.
Yeah.
So you want to.
So anyway, we walk back. We get back at dark, and again, we couldn't call,
remember,
so nobody
you
knew
guys
what happened to us.
We just walk like 3 miles, man, on the freaking soft sand.
Oh yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah.
So next day we get back down there, and we take the whole crew.
You
we
took
take the
us
other
all.
car, and we took a pump to pump up the
Yeah.
wheel, get the air back in it, and we got it loose.
I think
finally
we
got it
had
out.
maybe borrowed shovels. I don't know. I remember spending a couple, like an hour and a
took
half
a
digging
little
that
bit.
vehicle out of the
Yeah.
sand. When the waves are probably good that morning, but we
I don't think they were. I think it was.
No, it
we
was
didn't
not a
get good
good
surf
day.
that day. That whole
Maybe
trip, it
not.
wasn't that good. Although we surfed that one spot that was kind of big, but even then, it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going back, and this is where Jay exaggerates. So we're heading back, and I'm driving. So we'd parked the other car where it wouldn't get stuck in the sand. And so I'm going to drive back to there, and a couple of guys, Brian Bielman jumps in, or no, he had. So anyway, a couple of guys feel adventurous. They jump on the outside. They're standing on the running boards.
And on the running boards on either side of this SUV.
Yeah. And
on the beach. They're
on the
driving on
beach.
the beach.
It's sand. You fall off,
I think
it's
it was
sand.
you and Mike. You were driving. Mike was in the Mike Stewart was in the passenger
No,
seat.
actually, I
maybe.
think Brian was
Brian
in the past,
Bielman.
and
Okay.
Mike was outside because Mike ended up scolding me very harshly.
Okay.
So
I
anyway,
decided to walk. I was like, this doesn't look good. Maybe not a good decision to stand on the running boards while he
wait a minute.
guns it up the beach.
Who's
I'll
driving?
walk a quarter
Is,
mile up the beach.
No, let me. Can I be your conscience for a minute?
picture.
Here's
Paint a picture for
JP's thought process, or Jay Reale's thought process.
Yeah.
JP's driving. Perhaps I'll walk.
Yes, that was all it took, man.
He had no faith in me. Anyway,
Yes.
so in order to make sure we got up over this little berm, I gunned it. And the boys hanging on the outside got scared, and they all jumped off. And if they would have stayed on, everything would have been fine.
Well, let me
But
point
they all
out,
jump off.
You're leaving out
They're
some key
tumbling in the
details.
sand.
You're
'cause
pointing out
I was
key
only going
details.
about 50.
And here's the key details. You were driving up the beach at a rather high rate of speed, considering there were Lanson on one side and Spencer on the other side, hanging on to basically the rain gutters of the vehicle,
I think it was
standing on
actually
the
the
running
luggage
boards.
rack.
Okay, the luggage rack. And there was a gap in between two sand dunes that you had to drive over.
Sure.
And the vehicle, because you were speeding up to make it over that berm, started sort of fishtailing a little. And I think they thought he's going to fishtail into one of these two sand dunes, and I'm going to get crushed against the side of this. So they ditched the vehicle and drove off. You were going like 35 miles and 30 miles.
Nobody would have gotten hurt had they just maintained control of their emotions.
And he did make it. I will say he made it.
Without a scratch.
So anyway, all's well that ends well. I walked and I couldn't. I wish we had cell phones back then.
I wish we
that
had
would have been
video of
such
that.
good video.
That would have been hilarious.
Would have been epic. So anyway,
okay. Now, so
yes.
And then the only other thing that happened in my car was Mike and I, again, we were out one morning driving. Maybe it was the same morning we got the flat tire, but we crashed into a beehive.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember
We
that.
had the windows down, and
wow.
we hit this branch, and it had a beehive in it.
Oh, my gosh. Did the bees fly into the windows?
but we jumped out, and they cleared out pretty fast after that.
So I'll share another thing that happened with me. My SUV was still intact at this point. Like,
Barely.
Nothing had happened to it on the whole trip. And one day I was driving into the Presley Caravan Park, and they had these metal posts leading into the entrance, and I took one of the turns a little too tight and dented the front quarter panel on the passenger side of the vehicle.
Now, remember, you're driving on the other side of the road down
driving
there.
on the left.
So it is a little different.
However, I'll use that as my excuse.
However, you've been to Australia
I had several times.
You knew the rules.
I screwed up, so we went in, and I had to tell JP. But at this point, I think he was so numb from all the other damage that he had on his own vehicle that, hey, what's another several $100 on top of the already
no, that's
huge
not what
bill
I
that we
said.
had.
Come on.
But I will say this, JP. I will say this. We pulled into the campsite, and I looked at the dent, and Mike Stewart and I looked at it, and we said, I think we can get that dent out.
Yeah.
I think we can get it out. They'll never know. So we found a 2x4 and a rock, and we opened the hood of the vehicle, and we could see the inside of the dent on the inside of the engine compartment, but we couldn't quite get the right angle on it, but we tried. So we stuck that 2x4 in there.
That counts.
I held the board, and Mike slammed the board with the rock as we tried to bang the dent out.
Right.
And we got it somewhat out, but not really all the way.
It looked 1,000 times worse when you guys got it done. No, because of the level of the scratch and because it kind of tapered in and then got deep and then tapered out and it was right over the fender well, it almost looked like it was done in manufacturing, it was designed that way.
So then we thought,
but after they got done, it looked like somebody had taken a rock and a 2x4 and pounded on the side of the truck.
Needless to say, it didn't work.
No.
And the end result of that was, what was the expense report looking like for that trip?
Don't remember, but normally when I turned in expense reports, nobody said nothing.
Okay.
This one
That's a double negative, by the way.
I had some splaining to do, as Ricky Ricardo would say. Yeah. So I went in.
You got some splaining to do.
They're trying to tell me how, no, that kind of car damage, that's on you. That's on you. And I go, no, I had insurance. They go, well, how come the insurance didn't cover it? I go, I don't know. It's in Australia. They got different rules down there. But I had full coverage. I don't know why. But anyway, it was fun.
So that was our Western Australia. Then we had a trip to Peru. So Peru had a distributor. His name was Gustavo Reatagui. He was a great guy. He and his wife, and forgive me, I can't remember his wife's name, but in any case, they invited us down to Peru to do a series of promotions in different surf shops down there in Peru. So JP
and a contest.
Yes, and we had a contest.
They had the Peruvian national, qualifying event for pipeline or whatever it was.
So we flew down there. It was again Mike Stewart, myself, JP, Spencer Skipper, Lance and Ronquillo. So we flew into Lima. I remember when we landed in Lima and we were driving to Punta Hermosa, which is where Gustavo lived. Beautiful house right on the beach. I remember seeing garbage trucks backing up to the river and just literally dumping raw garbage right into the river. And we were like, whoa, this is gnarly.
Yep.
And we drove to Gustavo's. It was a wonderful stay there. They had
it was awesome.
Gourmet meals. I think they were vegetarians maybe. And they had, or something.
Well, we had a lot of fish and then we had chicken.
Yeah, healthy. But real healthy meals, really excellent food.
Yeah, it was like a hacienda-style house. And Gustavo lived on one side.
Beach.
And his brother and his family lived on the other, and the mom lived there, right?
I think
something
so.
like
yeah,
that.
that sounds right.
But it was almost like a mini apartment building, and it was very
on the
cool.
beach in front of Pico Alto, which is like the big wave spot. Down there.
Yeah.
So
right on. It was awesome.
But
it was beautiful.
The cool part about this was that Gustavo, he had a Jeep Cherokee.
Yep. A white Jeep Cherokee.
He loaned it to us. Yeah, he said, "You guys take my Jeep Cherokee. You can drive. Here's where the spots are. Go check it out. Go for a surf." So, we got a few sessions in, and one day I remember we were driving, looking at spots. We were pulled over to the side of the road, and we decided, let's go back to this other spot. So we whip a U-turn on the road, and the police happened to be nearby and saw it. Right. So they light us up straight away, and we're like, oh man, this is going to be bad. I'm the only one who spoke any Spanish, and I took like 4 years of Spanish in junior high and high school. So my Spanish is pretty rudimentary, but they didn't know any Spanish. Yeah. This guy, the high school dropout, Mike Stewart.
Why do you need Spanish? I'm in Hawaii. We don't need Spanish. If anything, we need to study Japanese.
No Spanish in Hawaii. So we get pulled over. Do you remember what happened?
I do, of course. So we get pulled over, and I don't speak any Spanish. And the nice gentleman in the uniform says something or other, identificación.
Right.
And we had been told to leave everything at the house because of all the thieves. Right. They will steal everything. So we have no identification. And so we dig through the he wants to know whose car it is.
Right.
And and it's got the Morey logo. It had the Morey logo on the side.
Right, I remember that.
And so we try to explain we're Team Morey and this is who it is. And
I think we had a magazine.
I think you're right.
It had Mike Stewart,
that's
Campeón
right.
del Mundo, world champion.
Right.
And we showed him the picture of Mike, and we pointed to Mike, who's sitting in the back seat, and said, "Hey,
they're
look,
just going, ooh, mucho dinero for this guy."
They're kind of semi-impressed, but also probably thinking, "Let's fleece these Americans."
Yeah. So they go, "Not your car." I go, "Yeah, follow us back to the house."
Yeah.
They go, "No, get out of the car." And I go, "No, we're not abandoning the car." And they go, "We're." Jay's translating, and I go, "Jay, what'd they say?" They go, "We're impounding the car. They want us to get out, and they're gonna have the car towed away." And I'm like, that ain't gonna happen. I just sat there.
We're thinking this
and
is
so
bad.
Finally we go back and forth, and they go, well, you need to pay the fine. You need to pay we need dinero. and I knew dinero. I knew Spanish that much. I know burrito, baño, tequila, and dinero.
The most
and
important
that's about
Spanish words
so,
to JP.
Carne asada.
Sorry to our Spanish-speaking
Yeah, I'm sorry. No offense,
and
please.
Listeners.
Anyway, so I go, "Oh, dinero. You need dinero. No problem."
Well, hold on. I remember them pointing to the gas gauge and saying, "Necesitamos dinero para gasolina." That we need money for gas.
Right. And that's what you said. And I was like, "Bitch."
Really?
So we start digging through the seats in the ashtray, and I'm like, "Guys, dig in your pockets." So we come up with all this money.
It's soles. Sole. The sole is the currency there
of Peru. Yeah. So anyway, I got like this much coins. And but I'm kind of like, I'm turned away from the window because Jay and everybody's loading me up, and so I turn back, and the police van's like smiling like he's gonna get, and I'm covering up the money, and I go like this, and he puts his hand out like this, and I just dump it, and I start the car, we drive away.
It was like $1.35 worth of soles, man.
Like
that's all we had.
It was it.
Yeah, and we were telling him, no tenemos dinero, we don't have any money, because...
And I kept telling them, follow us to the house, and they didn't want to follow us to the house.
No, they were over. They just wanted to get a little money. And
then then they pull out, and they followed us for a little bit,
yeah.
and then they just peeled off. They figured out we got no money. So
that was adventure one.
Stupid gringos.
we survived the fleecing with $1.35 lighter in the wallet, which is not bad.
And by the way, if I remember right, Lanson and Skippy were kind of traumatized.
Oh, they were probably terrified,
Yeah,
you know, because they were
thought
much
they were going to
younger than
jail.
us. Yeah, they were like 10 years
Spencer
younger.
was turning 18 and turned 18 on that trip.
Wow.
Remember
Yeah,
that?
okay.
And it was his first time south of the equator.
Oh, I don't even remember that part. Wow.
Well,
yeah.
The way I remember it is then we went exploring.
Oh, yeah. This is the
And,
firing range story?
Yeah, well, it was militario, off-limito, kind of.
Yes.
Don't ignore the barbed wire, but
Right.
we did anyway.
We took some turns that maybe we shouldn't have taken. JP
Go
decided.
exploring.
"Let's
Well,
go
I
explore."
know, and Mike was right there with me.
Yeah.
He said, "Let's go this way," and so we
So
did.
we did. So we drove on to what turned out to be I want to say it was a firing range essentially, where the military would fire weapons.
You need to study more
We
Spanish.
know
I don't
this.
think it said that. I don't think
We
it said
know
that. It didn't
this
say that.
because we pulled over at one point and we found like bullet casings.
Yeah, gun casings.
Right, and then we saw a sign when we left. I think we saw a sign that.
That's
I eventually
right.
translated and figured out, oh my God, this says don't come here, peligroso, dangerous. This is a friggin' firing. But I remember at some point during that trip, there was a very, very steep dirt hill.
There was a lot of steep
And
dirt hills.
you decided that you would see if Gustavo's Cherokee could make it up that very steep dirt hill.
Yeah,
Do you remember that?
I do.
And I'm basically in the back seat panicking, telling
Squealing
you,
like
I
a
don't
pig.
think we shouldn't drive up that hill. It's really steep.
You really thought we were going to flop over
I just thought we're going to flip over backwards.
It was pretty steep.
And if we don't make it, we're done. We can't turn around. It was too narrow. And when you were driving up the hill, you couldn't see over like the hill because the thing was pointed to the sky.
Yeah.
And I was
You're watching
terrified.
birds out of
And
the
I'm going to
windshield.
die here in Peru in my early 30s. I'm done. This is the end of my life because JP decided it would be a good idea.
So
to
the
drive
reason
up
I
this
did
hill.
that is so
hear
my
it.
first car was a 65 Chevy Nova.
Oh, yeah.
My second car was an International Scout, a 72 International
Those are
Scout,
cool-
four-wheel
cool
drive.
vehicles, yeah.
Yeah, like a Jeep. And I drove that thing all over everywhere in Hawaii. So
Okay.
I knew how to do off-road driving. He didn't know that, I guess.
No, you could have imparted
I
that
remember,
knowledge
so
to
we
me.
got up to the top of this hill, and we all get out, and,
Yeah.
and some of us had to go wee-wee, and including Skippy.
Yeah.
And so while we're doing that, and we're like trying to write. So you got to realize Peru is on the coast is one of the driest environments in the world.
Yeah,
it gets
it's
like zero
Just
rainfall.
dirt, man, everywhere.
If you see a weed, it's a dead.
Yeah.
If you see grass, I mean, it's because somebody wealthy lives there.
That is the most barren coastline I've ever seen in all my travels.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
No, it was. You don't even see weeds.
Right.
And anyway, so we get to the top of this hill, and it's dust and rock.
Right.
But it's this huge, like almost like a sand dune, but it's a dirt dune.
Yeah.
And we get up there, and we're writing our names in the sand or in the dirt. And somebody, I don't want to say.
You don't want to point fingers.
I don't remember exactly who it was, but somebody was like, like this. We're looking at each other, and it's like, and Skipper was doing this, writing his Spencer Skipper, and like, my name JP. I'm done. I'm out.
Yes.
And so we kind of back away and we leave him. You remember this?
Yeah.
And he's sitting there. Well, by the time he realizes what happened, we're in the Jeep heading the other direction, leaving him out in the middle of nowhere.
Love it.
And and this was his birthday
Yes.
what do you call it? Initiation.
Initiation. Yeah, you're
and
18
so
now.
you turn 18 and south of the equator.
A little hazing for him.
And so
Right.
anyway, we come back and the doors are locked and he tries to get in and I keep moving the car, and he walks up and I move the car and he walks up and I move the car. And then at one point we start doing donuts around him.
Oh my
and,
gosh.
And just
I don't
the
remember that.
gnarliest dust cloud.
Awesome.
And he's just lost in this dust cloud. So anyway,
awesome,
finally
man.
we let him back in,
Yeah.
but I think he's still mad at me for that.
Yeah, he'll get over it. He's
anyway.
a firefighter now.
Yeah.
So we got mobbed at some of the promotions.
Well,
we
wait,
did. Like,
that trip
serious.
that little excursion is not over yet.
Oh, we're still going.
So
Okay,
now
what
we're
happened?
heading back towards the signs that say "Do not enter."
Yeah, right.
And we had driven. I don't know. What do
Pretty
you think?
far in. I don't know.
10, 12 miles,
I don't
maybe.
know. I don't even remember.
Anyway, we're coming back out, and it's just this big, straight, long dirt road. So I motor it up. Everybody's thirsty, hungry, tired, lonely, cold, and they want to go home. So I'm going down this road, maybe like, I don't know, 50 miles an hour. And Jay, still traumatized from the hill climb, goes, slow down. And Mike Stewart goes, speed up, you drive like an old lady.
God.
And I go, old lady. And so, yeah, a little
Mike
faster.
liked to push my buttons.
And Mike, and he liked to push everybody's buttons. He liked to
Yes.
push my button too. But anyway, so we end up, I'm going down this dirt road, I don't know, 70, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah,
We were going way too fast, but it was fun. And we're just going straight, so it's not a problem, right? And the whole time Mike is just going, come on, Grandma Patterson, or, something like this. And so anyway, at one point I kind of slow down a little bit, but then I swerve off the road and kind of go out in the dirt and spin around, and everybody, ah! Anyway, that was the e-ticket ride.
Yes, it was indeed. And we did promos on that trip.
Yeah, we did promos.
And we had crazy crowds. Like, the crowds would mob us, and as we left in the vehicle that we were in, they would run after us and like bang on the windows to get autographs. It was really like it was the closest thing a bodyboarder can feel to, I guess, being like a rock star. So
major rock star.
The reception was awesome. At one point, and I'm going to switch gears here, I talked about Mike liking to push buttons. Well, I got to push Mike's buttons at one point. We were in
Pizza Hut,
downtown Lima, and I'm a comfort food guy. I'm not an adventurous eater. I'll admit it. I have the palate of an 8-year-old, and so I convinced everyone to go to Pizza Hut one day. And Mike is like a healthy eater, health food nut, and he just deplored the idea of going to.
But I told
Pizza
Mike,
Hut.
being the leader of the team, I told Mike, I said, "Hey, listen, everybody gets to, we got to keep everybody happy. Right. So today's Jay's day. We're gonna eat at Pizza Hut.
So we go to Pizza Hut, and Mike's like, "How can I do this in a healthy way?" Well, I'll order a pizza without cheese, right?
Oh no, with.
He wanted a pizza with no cheese.
Yeah, he wanted pizza, no cheese, but no pepperoni, no.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know
like
what it's, sauce?
No,
maybe veggies on it.
Yeah, he wanted the veggies, right.
No cheese. They couldn't comprehend that at Pizza Hut in Lima, Peru. They kept telling him, we can't make a pizza with no cheese. It's then not a pizza, so they couldn't do it.
Well,
he thought they figured it out.
Well, there's a few other details we got to throw in there to kind of, make it a little juicier. It's rush hour, lunchtime in downtown Lima.
Oh, man.
The place is packed. Right? So
everyone loves pizza, except Mike Stewart.
We all put in our order, and we still had to wait like 45 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
I remember being a long wait.
And so now Mike thought he had put in his order.
Oh,
and here comes all our pizzas, and we all got personal pan pizzas, right? So Mike's like, "Where's my pizza?" And the guy goes, "Oh, we can't make your pizza." And Mike,
he flipped.
Well, he was hangry.
Yeah, angry, big time hangry.
You would have done the same thing if you were that hangry.
Man.
So I would have done the same thing.
Yep.
So anyway, I mean, you could have. I thought he was going to have an aneurysm.
Rough day. Yeah. And I mentioned in one of my other shows about my Europe trip where Mike and I butted heads over food. That was an ongoing theme between Mike Stewart and myself.
But we lived.
In those
days.
Lived
to tell about it.
So the end of the trip, or somewhere near the end, we got a wonderful invitation from someone that we met who worked for United Airlines, offered to get us flights and basically like 2 or 3 days up to Machu Picchu, which is...
Well, can we go back to the promos?
Oh,
just
sure.
To reiterate the rock star status. Well, I just want to throw in a couple of things. We were doing promos on the beach in easy up tents, because it was so hot. And and the tents had sides to it. And the line was forever.
Super long,
and
to get autographs.
And the guys would be, you'd have Jay, Spencer, Lance, and Mike all at a table, and the kids would come down, and literally hundreds and hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
And they're signing, and then it was like, okay, we got to go. We got to leave in 5 minutes. And so I would tell the guys, I go, hey,
got to cut it off.
I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. You guys stand up all at the same time. We sneak out under the tent.
The Irish goodbye.
I would have the car hidden on, backed up to the tent, and the guys would jump in real fast and we'd drive off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how that was the only way we could get
run after us.
Well, and they'd block the roads. I don't know if you remember that.
Because the people that didn't get their autographs were not happy.
Yeah, because one day we were doing promos in Lima.
Yeah.
And we were going from surf shop to surf shop to surf shop.
So we had to keep on the schedule.
Yeah, and they weren't that far away. Maybe a mile. Maybe some of them were even closer. And we'd leave the store, and one was like a mall, and we're trying to walk through, and the guys wouldn't let us walk through, and we finally get down to the car, and they're blocking the car.
Yeah.
We couldn't get out of the parking lot.
Gnarly.
And then we're going down the street, and like you said, we look on the side, and here's these guys racing
They're running
us.
after the vehicle.
It was crazy.
It was. That was nuts, man.
Anyway, Machu Picchu,
Yeah, so we left... the coast there between Lima and Punta Hermosa. We flew to Machu Picchu. Now, Machu Picchu is pretty high elevation. And a lot of people struggle because, we were coming from sea level to basically it's like 11,000 feet, I think Cusco is, maybe?
Cusco.
Which is a very high elevation to come from sea level and, to avoid acute mountain sickness or, which is
altitude,
what they call it.
Altitude, yeah.
AMS. When you land, they have coca tea, which is basically tea infused, I guess, with cocaine.
It's made with cocaine leaves. They make tea out of cocaine leaves.
Yeah,
instead of tea leaves,
as you get off the plane, they have it.
There's a little old guy there, and and here's your cup of tea. And
so we all had a little coca tea. It doesn't have any weird effect, make you all stoned or high or whatever, but. Yeah. It's supposed to help you acclimate to the quick change in elevation. So we stayed in this hotel, and it was a cool little rustic hotel in downtown Cusco. And then we were going to Machu Picchu. And most people, they take a train up to Machu Picchu.
Yeah, like a 2-hour,
it's like a long
train.
Winding up, and then you get on a bus and you go up this switchback hill to the actual site, and you can kind of walk around and hike up and stuff. But we somehow, I don't know, I guess this lady that worked for United arranged a Russian Sikorsky helicopter to take us up to
an old military
surplus,
for carrying troops.
The seats are falling apart and stuff.
But they did have a really cute stewardess.
Yeah, we have a photo. There's a photo out there. I think I maybe posted it once on our Instagram.
The blue helicopter.
Of all of us about to get on that helicopter.
Yeah.
So we get on the chopper. We fly up to Machu Picchu.
And the chopper is the blade is out of balance, so the whole time you're like this.
So we're not going to make it. The air's so thin at this elevation. I don't know if we're going to get any lift.
So this is the way I remember it: is that it's like, okay, we can take a 3-hour train ride for $20, or we can each pay $40 and take a 30-minute helicopter ride.
Even shorter.
And so it's like, well, duh, that's easy.
Yeah.
So little did we know we're going on this helicopter through a ravine like this, and at the bottom of the ravine is a gushing river. So there's nowhere to land.
No.
And the guy's just cruising through this valley, and
so cool.
And it was very cool.
Yeah.
But it was a little sketchy, but
we made
lived
it.
To tell about
we
it.
get on a bus. It switchbacks up, and then we went and hiked up this feature up there. It's called Buena Picchu, and it's a kind of a long, steep sort of hike. There's a couple sections with ladders and ropes and so forth, and we get to the top, and of course JP, being the daredevil he is, the guy that climbs up telephone poles upside down and rides giant waves at Wedge in Waimea. He wants to go to the edge of this cliff and take a picture. I declined. I took the cameras and took the pictures of all you guys sitting on this ledge. And we climbed. We were wearing jeans, for crying out loud. Yeah. What idiots we were.
We discovered jeans. That Jay has a fear of heights.
Oh, I have a fear of not so much heights. It's more like I have this irrational fear of falling off cliffs. I don't know why it is.
But
anyway.
Yeah. Myself, Mike Stewart. So I had taken a bag. My briefcase was the only bag I had, and we had put like nuts and fruits and stuff like this, snacks for our lunch. Right. And I had it, and we had climbed up it, and you got to remember this. So the trail, I remember the trail being like about this wide, and on this side, your elbow is rubbing the rock. Face of the cliff, and on this side you're looking at the clouds down there. The clouds are down there. And I remember one time, I don't know who I was talking to, and they said, man, I wonder why did they make this? And I go, this is why they made it, because the king said so. And the king would say, okay, you and you are going to go carve me a trail and cut stairs into the lava rock.
The Incan Empire.
And I'm going to stay here with the virgins, and you're going to go and cut this trail for me. Thank you.
King,
and don't come back until it's done.
Right.
But we were so we get up there, and I got the trail, all the food in the bag. And Jay takes some pictures, and we're over, and so now we're sitting on the edge of this rock, and there's like 500 feet of air under our feet, and then you would bounce like maybe once or twice, and then you'd probably go another like 1,000 feet or something.
Might find your body.
The clouds are going by down there. They're going through the valley down.
We're up there.
We were above the clouds. It was so cool. And Jay's going, give me some food, give me some food. Man. And we're just like, well, come over here. And he's like,
no, I'll stay here.
Throw it to me.
I'll stay here. I'm not going to the edge of that cliff. The funny thing I remember about that Machu Picchu visit was we get on the bus after we had hiked back down from Buena Picchu, and the bus does this series of switchbacks. I don't know how many, 10 switchbacks down to the base where we get back on the chopper. And there's this little kid, and you get on the bus at the top. 7-year-old kid, and he gets on the bus, and he says to all the tourists, "Goodbye," and you're like, "Oh, that's nice." This little local kid's up here, and he's saying goodbye to all the tourists. And the bus takes off. He gets off the bus, and the bus takes off, goes down, and takes a switchback, and comes down and stops. And this kid had hightailed it down this trail that cut through the switchback, down this gnarly trail cliff thing.
The switchback goes like this.
And the bus pulls over, opens the door. The kid jumps on again and says goodbye. And you get the theme. Every switchback, all the way down, this kid's racing straight down these gnarly trails and hopping on the bus, yelling goodbye, goodbye. And by the third or fourth time, you just start laughing because you're like, man, this is. Next level commitment.
I don't remember him jumping on the bus at every switchback, but at every time he got to the switchback, he was outside waving goodbye, and we would throw money.
I remember at the bottom
to try to slow him down.
Oh, is that it?
No, Mike was like, "Hey, get some money. We'll throw money." And you're trying to slow him down so that the bus can get. We find out later the bus and the bus driver and the kid are in cahoots together.
Sure, because the kid's going to catch the bus back up for the next group
and do it
tourists.
Again. But this kid, I'm not kidding you, he's mountain goating it as fast as he can down this cliff, and every turn, goodbye. And then at the end, we get to the flat ground, and he gets on board, and everybody's clapping, and they give him some money, and he bows and stuff, and he's cool. And then he goes up to the bus driver, he gives him some of the money.
So funny.
And he gets off.
Very industrious kid, man.
So anyway.
So good times in Peru. Now,
great times in Peru.
So those were a couple of super fun trips that we did. Now,
wait, you didn't talk about the hookers in the lingerie in Lima on the corner.
What? Remember? I don't remember that.
Remember we went to remember when Gustavo took us to his country club for the lunch?
I don't even remember that.
You don't remember the country club?
Sorry, Gustavo.
Oh my gosh, it was one of the best meals we had.
Wow.
It was all catered and everything.
Okay.
There were tennis courts and a pool and grass.
I wish we had video cameras back then.
And no, I had a video camera, but I didn't shoot it. But yeah, and then we're driving through Lima, and on the corner are all these hookers, and they're like in Victoria's Secret. It looks like a Victoria's Secret, catalog,
yes,
but in real life.
Oh my gosh!
And you don't remember that?
I don't remember.
Oh, you're lying.
So
it's the only time you pulled your camera out.
We had some adventures back in the day, but I want to fast forward so we can kind of come full circle here. And so that tenure at Mattel as the team manager came to an end at some point. Yeah, why did that end?
Well,
let's talk about that.
Well, I got the job because I had heard that they had that Mattel had bought it away from Kransco.
Yeah, I remember you shared with us that Mike.
Mike let me know about it.
Right.
So anyway, I started off in sales, and then I went over to promotions, and that was, like I said, we had the best job in the world.
Yep.
I mean, never again. But I had Barbie's credit card. I had over $1 million budget. All my friends are on my team.
Yeah.
And everybody I know, I'm taking to dinner and we did the
expense accounts.
I was in charge of the pipeline contest. I got to help run the pipeline contest every year. We boosted up the prize money. We did a better banquet for the awards banquet.
And a lot has been said maligning the years that when Mattel bought the brand, but the reality of it is Mattel. They hired JP, who can argue that this guy is like OG bodyboarder right here. So
it's not like they tried.
Yeah,
they tried to do what they could, but
they did.
Production on the production side, they kept effing up. And
but
I tried to help them on that.
Try.
And Mike Stewart and I, we'd go down to Mexico and we'd consult with the crew down there and try to fix it, but
they did fund a lot of stuff. I mean, they rose the bar for our sport in terms of like putting more money into the pipe event. They actually cut the board restriction at pipe, which is a major controversial issue.
I eliminated that immediately.
Yeah, I mean, so the board restriction, just to touch on it super briefly, I don't want to belabor that point, but the pipeline event that Morey Bodyboard started in 1982, they required all the riders to ride a Morey branded board. And a lot of riders rode for different companies and protested it. Eventually, it came to a head where they said, look, it's not safe for me to ride a board that I don't normally ride in such heavy waves. So some people boycotted the event. There was a big stink about it, and when JP took over with Mattel, he said, "That's it. We got to cut this."
And my boss gave me heat about it, and I just tell him, "Look, it's bad for our reputation. It's making us look like a-holes."
Right, and so he that was the end of
he
that.
Agreed. He goes, "Yeah, I never thought of it that way."
Yeah,
and he goes, "Why would we give up such a great marking thing? Because we look like ding dongs."
Right.
We look like Nazis.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to offend the Nazis out there.
so Mattel, I mean, they, granted, they were a toy company, but they did put people in place like JP.
And they threw a lot of money.
And they did put a lot of money into it to try to maintain the legitimacy and the bodyboard connection that Morey had. They had bodyboarders on the
we
payroll.
spent money around the world. We gave money to the George Kolomotangi, and he ran some big events. And we gave Peru. We sponsored that whole thing that we talked about. I mean, we did Europe. The tours that we did to go see the promos. We did the Ala Moana promos during the pipe event. So
totally.
I mean, we did a lot to try and boost the whole thing. We spent some good money on it.
They did. So that ended in
plus it was a ton of fun.
Oh, it was a lot of fun, as we pointed out with the travel stories. But when did that end, and why did it end? Because they sold the brand.
What had happened is the production was in the toilet. The way that I understood it is there's a tradition down in Mexico that when a company buys another company, the workers get a little bonus as a gratuity to stay on board.
Okay.
To keep them working in the same factory.
For the new owner of the brand.
Right.
Got it.
And so it's kind of like, hey, welcome to the company. Here's a Christmas bonus, even though it's June.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the tradition. Well, the guy that was running, the way I understand, the guy that was running Mattel at the time, he didn't honor that tradition. So we lost a lot of skilled laborers. They just walked out. And the equipment they were using was a bit antiquated. So it took some skill to make decent boards with this, semi-primitive, stuff that they were using. Yep. And so like overnight, quality just went in the toilet.
Wow.
And they tried to get it back up. And eventually they bought all new top of the line laminators and all this stuff. Yeah, $30,000 laminators. They bought 4 of them.
Wow.
All computerized, all time, everything. It was actually a really, really good thing, but it was too little, too late. And by that point, it was done. I got called by when I probably about a year into my job. I got a call by our European distributor, Mr. Michel Hoff. You know him very well, super nice guy. Yep. Calls me up and he goes, JP, all the boogie boards in the container are shit. They are shit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I open every single one. Bubbles, delamination in the package. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And he sent me all, I bet he sent me 100 photos.
Wow.
And he's just, and how do you recuperate from that?
Yeah.
He had lost his whole season.
Right.
And he was our biggest customer. He was our biggest one person customer. Yep. But the same thing happened to Walmart, Toys R Us, Target, all the big chain accounts that we had, Sports Authority, Sports Chalet, Big Five, millions of dollars in sales. Gone. In the meantime, me and Jay are running around the world with Barbie's credit card, just racking up the bills on broken cars.
And we were getting custom boards made as team riders.
Right. Well, they had a special shop set up at in El Segundo.
And Steve Moran.
Steve Moran and what was the other guy?
There was a guy named
Custom X for a time.
Yeah,
and then split off.
Well, you're talking about Mike Fleming.
Yep.
But there was another guy as well. Oh man, his name escapes him. But anyway, they were making us custom boards.
Getting custom boards.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what happened, and then so they were looking to sell.
Yep.
A group of investors put together some money, and they bought Morey, but they also bought hacky sack, all the Whammo products, that Mattel had acquired from Pransco.
Right.
And so then they set us up as the Whammo Corporation.
Yeah.
And we ran that for a couple of years, and I was sales manager again, I was sales promotional manager there.
Yeah.
And worked it for a couple of years, but again, we were having all kinds of production troubles and
fading, and they had made some questionable decisions to unload some of the signature boards to sporting goods stores for dirt cheap. Then the sporting goods stores would turn around and sell them at a price much lower than the surf shops could afford to sell them at. And that alienated a lot of the core shops, I think.
And the other thing, too, that happened is, again, we were still suffering from the quality issues.
Yeah, that
So
too.
A lot of those boards, they weren't symmetrical in the template. One side was real curvy and the other side was dead straight. And, it was the
perfect storm of...
Yeah. They were delaminating in the package, Our competitors would joke around that, the Mattel, or the Morey pillow top bodyboard. Well, it's because the whole deck was delaminated. Just bubbled. And
so eventually that gravy train came to that station and let you off, to use a euphemism there.
It slowed down and I jumped.
So you jumped ship. And then, so let's move on from that. So now... we're leading to try to wrap this up in a nice little bow here. That ended early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
And now, what did you do? You had your killer job has now come to a grinding halt. What do you do now?
So then
you have a family to support.
Yeah, I went back to being the sales rep, and I actually represented Morey for a time.
Okay.
And that didn't last too long. But you know, I forget the lines I was repping, but I had a decent. Oh, I got picked up by a company called. Oh gosh. Anyway, they did Doyle surfboards, and then they also had a line of bodyboards.
Okay.
And SUPs was starting to come in at that time, so I was doing a lot of work for them. And and before that, I was working for a factory out of China, and there were two brothers. The one brother ran the factory in China. The other brother was setting up sales in Canada. He was actually up in Canada, but he would come down to the U.S. and we were trying to sell. It was called Rush bodyboards.
Rush, yeah.
And how much more Chinese can you get? But and then they did make a really, really good skim board, and I was selling a ton of their skim boards. I was doing Zap skim boards for a time, and they decided that they didn't want to go to the big stores anymore. They just wanted to sell to surf shops.
Wow.
Well, in the meantime, I'm selling to Sports Authority and Big Five. And,
that's where you make your money, right?
Yeah,
the
and
big
so when they
like
said
that.
they didn't want to ship that, I was like, okay. And so then I started doing Rush. I reached out to Rush, and they needed somebody to go around. And I think I quadrupled their sales the first year.
Oh, wow.
And they went from like 0 to huge, pretty fast. I was selling to Jacks. I was selling to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then what else? Who else was I repping for? I repped for Mike for a time. I was Mike Stewart's rep for a time.
Okay.
Because he had, at that point, of course, he had branched out on his own. And so I was repping for him for a little bit. And doing Viper fins. I've been with Viper fins forever. And so I was repping Viper fins, and they were doing well. And I repped for Defin for a time as well. Wow. I sold them.
So you bounced around a lot of companies.
Well, some people call sales reps sluts. I prefer prostitute. We get paid for putting out.
Sure,
no, but actually, I enjoy getting rewarded for my work.
Yeah.
And being a sales rep, you don't get paid until you make the sale.
Right.
And actually what happens is you're one of my customers. And so I sell to you.
Yep.
When you get around to it, you pay the bill.
Some get around to it sooner than others.
The factory the manufacturer then pays me usually about 30, sometimes 60 days later.
Yep.
So the sales I make today, I don't get paid for sometimes 90 days, 120 days.
Yeah, that's tough.
So, it depends on the terms. So some, customers get 30 days to pay, 60 days to pay sometimes, and depending on the program. So, but I just love, some people call it sales. I call it customer service, because the whole thing is, and I would get interviewed for jobs, like The Kind came to me at one point and they said, hey, we want you to be our sales rep. And I had actually gotten referred by Val Surf. And he says, you're the guy at Val Surf, Mark, he says, you're up against this other younger team rider guy. And so I went into the interview, and I'm the old boogie boarder, right? And I'm sitting across from a sales manager who's a surfer, snowboarder. And he goes, oh yeah, what's your experience? I go, well, I sent you my resume. And he goes, oh yeah, with this and that. And I go, listen, here's the bottom line. I go, if you want someone cool to represent your line, it ain't me. Okay,
well, that's honesty.
I'm an old boogie boarder. There's nothing less cool than an old boogie boarder. I go, now if you want someone who will walk into Jack's, walk into the big accounts, shake their hands, they smile when I walk in, and I can get the sale, I can get placement of product, I can negotiate terms, I can do all of that, then I'm your guy.
Yeah.
I go, but and I tell them this, I go, my job, I don't work for you. I don't work for Dakine. I don't work for Viper. I work for Reale. I work for Jack's. I make them money.
Yeah.
If I make them money, they smile when I walk in the door.
Yeah.
I mean, I can crack all the jokes in the world, but at the end of the day, we're all in business. And business means making money. If you're not making money, you're not in business.
Yeah.
So my attitude is, if I make these people money, they will pay their bill. They'll buy stuff, They'll pay their bill, and I'll get paid. And that's and I think it goes back to my Hawaiian days, where you got to remember where you are in the pecking order of things, and you got to be humble about it, and you got to respect the other people, and everybody's got to get something out of it. And if somebody's not getting out, I was in a sales meeting at Mattel one time, and I told them, I go, look, everybody's got to make money. If the manufacturer has to make money, the sales guy has to make money, the factory has to make money, the retailer has to make money. If somebody in that chain of distribution isn't making money, the chain's broken. Yeah. It breaks down, and now it's not working anymore. Yeah. So we all got to make money. Yeah. But at the same time, don't get greedy, but actually be generous. Try to get people as much as money as they can. Well,
that's a very pragmatic approach, coming from years of experience doing that. And obviously you're still doing it for a reason, because you have success. You've established all those relationships with the retailers that you've worked with over the years, and the brands that you represent recognize that.
Well, and I remember I told the guy, I said, listen, I haven't been walking into Jack's since 1982, and they they still smile when I walk in. Yeah. Because I haven't made them. If I say something, it happens. Yeah. If something happens that I can't live up to the promise, I fix it. Somehow they never get stuck with product. They always make money. And if I got to bite the bullet, then so be it.
That's called integrity, folks. Well, something that's a lost art in this day and age.
A little bit. But that's, again, it's showing respect to the other person so that you get respect back. Yeah. How can you expect respect? How can you expect respect?
I like it.
That's
a lyric to a song.
I don't think I've ever said that before. Yeah. But how can you expect someone to honor you?
Reciprocate the respect.
if you're dicking them, right? One way or another.
Totally agree.
So whether you're lying to them, or you're not making them any money, or you're wasting their time, just wasting people's time.
Right.
There's business people out there like Jack's. You go into Jack's, you waste their time. You don't go back. Yeah. They will not pick up the phone.
Yeah, they don't have time.
They don't have time for that. Yep. So same thing with Reale's. Yeah. Bodyboarding.
I barely have time.
This place is a gold mine.
Yeah, right. Oh my God!
Poor guy lost his hair.
I'm gonna get some gold.
I remember when you started this. What was it? How long ago?
23 years ago.
23 years ago. He had hair.
Yeah, running a business.
Yeah, he lost the hair running bodyboarding. So
anyway. Okay, so now
where are we at now?
You are still to this day our Viper representative. You're also working with Custom X. Yep. And among others, and you have now taken on a more significant role with Viper. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So I started with Viper Fins. I met their sales rep over in Hawaii, Red Wings Whitford.
Red Wings.
And
body surfer guy.
This guy would body surf Waimea Bay when it was big.
Outside
the
Waimea,
point,
not the shore break.
Yeah. And anyway, super cool guy. He needed a strong fin, obviously, and I'm like, well, shoot, if this guy is using Vipers to body surf Waimea, maybe I want to take a look at this. So he sponsored me, got me a couple pair, and then I met Fred Simpson when he came over to Hawaii, and he sponsored me. And it wasn't a big sponsorship. It was a little help with contests and things like this, little money here and there, and a little travel. But and then over the course of time, I started modifying my fins where I cut them down because they were only the original 7-inch blades. Yeah. They had the ridges on both sides.
Yeah. Fred brought one in, and again, I'll link that at the top. That interview with Fred, it was a 2-parter. Go ahead.
Anyway, check it out. It's really interesting. And so I would cut it down. I'd go over to my brother-in-law's shop. He was a woodworker. He had a bandsaw, and I'd cut the end off and cut the ridges down, and I'd use it like that because it was lighter, and it gave you a quicker kick,
a little more snap,
but a hell of a lot more thrust than a flat-bladed fin. And so, and again, when you're way outside trying to catch the big ones, you need as much thrust as you can get to get into it. And so in 1990, Fred Simpson came to me, and at that point he only made the V7, the original style, for body surfers and lifeguards primarily. and he goes, hey, this whole bodyboarding thing is kind of kicking off. He goes, I want to get on it, and I want to modify the fin and start selling to bodyboarders, and I want to use your design. And so we sat down one day and we came up with a battle plan, and off we went. And at that point he goes, I want you to be the sales rep. And I was working in the Alita factory back then, and I was scared to death to be a sales guy. And he had actually been a sales rep or a salesman for Xerox back when copy machines were the size of the back of my truck.
Right.
And then he was a salesman for Craig Stereos, 8-track tapes. Look them up. Yeah. But Craig was the biggest stereo company back in, what would that be, the 70s?
Yeah,
huh?
right.
And so he was, a great sales guy. And so he goes, I'll teach you sales. And we would go into these surf shops. We would get in Fred's Aerostar, or was it Aerostar back then?
What are we talking about?
Dodge Caravan, like a Dodge Caravan. Yeah,
yeah.
Ford Aerostar.
Ford Aerostar, yeah.
And he would pack lunch, which consisted of bananas, Pepsis, smoked albacore, and sourdough bread.
How bizarre.
And we'd drive around, and it was amazing. We'd walk into these surf shops with smoked albacore breath.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, that's a little off-putting.
Yeah, and anyway, when we just started out, people were like, geez, I don't know, that's an ugly fin, and boy, is it expensive. Because Fred always made it in the USA. We were always more expensive than everybody else.
Still are made in the USA.
Yep, and so we would tell people, look, put together, let's bring a dozen pairs in, try them for 30 days or 60 days or whatever you're comfortable with. If you like them, pay for them, and we'll keep selling. If you don't,
risk. If
you don't like them, pay for what you sold. We'll pick up the rest. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, basically a consignment deal.
Can't go wrong. We didn't want to use the word consignment because we didn't want it to be an ongoing program.
Right.
We called it an introductory program.
Sure.
And so try it. If you like it, great. If you don't, fine. Because again, we don't want people to buy something. We don't want someone to get stuck with something.
Yeah.
And because the last thing you want, especially as a sales rep, you walk into the store and you look over, there's the guy behind the counter. You look behind him, and on the shelf there is the stuff you sold him 6 years ago. And it's got this much dust on it. And because what he's going to do, he's going to look at you, and he's going to look at that crap, that pile of dust on your stuff, and he's going to go, what are you going to...
associate you with that.
And if you don't clean it up, so anyway, that's what we didn't want to get into a mess like that.
Yeah.
And we were probably 95% successful.
Yeah.
And so and that was in 1990, and we're doing it ever since. And then a few years ago, Fred had some medical issues. He got that cancer, skin cancer.
We talked to him about that.
Yep. And see the link up here.
Yeah. I know. I got to put it in again. 131.
So he needed medical attention, and he the chemotherapy and everything was just taxing, and so he couldn't run the day-to-day operations. So I stepped in and was running it for him. And then probably about a year and a half ago, we decided that he would license it. His company would license it to my company.
Okay.
So Shorebake Surf is a licensee for Viper fins from the Pacific South Swell Corporation.
Okay.
And so I buy the fins. I ship them.
Yeah.
Sell them.
So JP is
bug Reale for a check. Pay me!
That's right.
Get your wife to pay me!
Vicky.
Dang it!
I'll leave her that. I'll blame her.
What do you mean she's not here? Again? Where is she? Hawaii? Again?
So you're running Viper now. Basically, you're taking the orders. You're working with the factory, which again, here in the USA, you're making sure stuff gets delivered. And you're still repping. We mentioned Custom X.
Yep.
That's another company that the original owner still owns and operates it. Debbie Caldwell, shout out to you for that. And you are doing, what else are you doing? I mean, you're a man who does a lot of different stuff.
Well,
What's your other income?
So about 20 years ago, being a sales rep is really, really fun, and it's good money in the summertime.
But it's sporadic, seasonal.
California is very seasonal.
Sure.
And so I had to find some way to feed the baby and, keep the lights on. Yeah. So I started doing handyman work.
Yep.
And got in with a couple realtors. And then I got in with a contractor who got me into some big houses down at Ritz Cove, which is right by Salt Creek Beach Park. And so now I'm a house manager / handyman / repair guy, organizer. I mean, again, I try to provide as much customer service to my customers as possible.
Yeah.
It's just kind of what I do. So I tell these people, they're all. Some are wealthy, some are extremely wealthy, some are beyond extremely wealthy. Yeah. Well, when you got two $30 million airplanes, so...
there's F-you money and there's F-me money.
Well...
That's F-me money.
We love rich people.
Sure.
They pay the bills.
They do.
Their checks never bounce.
Right.
And the Christmas bonuses are kind of nice too.
Yeah.
So you've plus they're nice people.
Yeah.
They're all self-made.
Yeah.
And they know what it's like, and they're respectful. They're not a-holes. I mean, there are a lot of rich a-holes out there.
Yep.
But I've met a couple.
Yeah.
But I decide, hey, I told one guy, I said, listen, I go, you'd be happier with somebody else.
Really?
And actually, I was talking to myself.
Oh.
but I made it sound like I was talking to him.
Right.
And that was kind of like my way of going, listen, your expectations are, ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so and I can't do that. They
appreciate
I'm still Hawaiian
honesty.
I'm still Hawaiian at heart.
Yeah.
I run on Hawaiian time most of the time. So I try to be punctual, but
you get it done eventually.
I'll get it done.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get it done on a Sunday night.
Right.
So quit calling me on the Sunday night.
Yes, understood.
If you do it again, you can find somebody else.
Well, so you've diversified, which is awesome, man. You to keep the year-round income flowing. You've done some stuff here for us and at my house, and this guy can do anything like electrical, plumbing, all that stuff, construction, and then
I can repair elevators.
Great, see that?
I also cater parties.
It does it all, man.
So,
and I've had his Terry chicken, by the way, second to none. So trust me, the man can cook as well, in addition to all the other talents he has. So, we talk
really
about
good at fishing and drinking beer and
he's
tequila.
Big fisherman. So this guy, we talk about him dropping out of school, but he's a good example of somebody who took all of his talents and capitalized on them. Not just, the handyman stuff I just mentioned, all the skills that he has, but his people skills. You've seen... We're at 1 hour and 36 minutes on part 4 of this show. This man
it's gonna be the longest episode you ever had.
He can spin a yarn. Oh, for sure. He can spin a yarn second to none. So he's a great storyteller, which really is sort of a
trying to figure out how to make money. Any of you want to hire a storyteller?
Yes. So the point is he can basically do it all, and he's a self-taught guy. So
one thing I learned that, and I kind of joke around about it with my customers, is I say 5-star service with a smile.
Yeah.
If you and maybe this is a little advice to everybody out there, being 62 years old, one thing I've learned is that if you provide 5 stars, regardless of what you're doing, I don't care if you're a trash man. In fact, my mom and my dad used to always tell me and my brothers, we don't care what you do. Be a trash man. Just be the best trash man that there is.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of, over the years, I started joking around. Some of my customers are like, wow, thanks, you did that, you got it done and did a good job. And I go, well, I try to provide 5-star service with a smile. And I go, create my, throw in my biggest, cheesiest smile I can throw at them, and they laugh. But you know what? That's, and you do that. I mean, with e-bodyboarding, you guys provide 5-star service with a smile.
It goes back to the integrity. I mentioned that earlier. You're a guy
but you have fun
of
at
integrity.
It too. But you
have fun at it, but you and I are from a different generation where a handshake and your word is gold.
Right.
If you tell somebody you're going to do something, you shake their hand, you look them in the eye, you do it.
Yeah.
That's
and
it.
if you can't do it,
Bottom
don't
line,
just
if
say
you don't do it, you try to make it right or you apologize.
Well, or don't do it.
Right, don't
Don't say you can do something you can't do.
Right. So that's just, I think that's part of our generation. That, and I'm not to say that current generations, there's not people that are like that, but it is sort of a lost art to give your word and honor that.
Right.
It's
and the other thing too is don't say no just because you've never done it before, but just tell them, look, I've never done this before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I've done in interviews. I've gone into interviews, and again, it gets back to just be honest. Just say, look, I'm willing to try. I'm willing to learn.
Yep.
I've never done this before. I think I got an idea. Maybe with a little of your help, I can be successful at it.
Yep.
And you'd be surprised how many people will go, you know what? I'll help you.
Yeah.
I'll make you successful. I'll help you be successful, because a lot of people, and especially in business, if I'm successful, you'll be successful. If you're successful, I'll be successful. It gets back to that whole thing. Don't sell somebody something that's not going to sell. And because you're not going to
come back to bite you.
Yeah, it doesn't do anybody any good.
Right.
So anyway,
I've
had companies hand me what do they call them, forecasts and
sales
quotas.
Forecasts,
Yeah. It's like, well, we expect you to sell this much this year, and I go, okay. I tell you, or they ask me, we need your forecast. I go, okay, fine, no problem. All he needs is a little information from you. Sure. What do you need? I need to know how many shark attacks there's going to be. I need to know how many wars there's going to be, how much inflation there's going to be. What's the interest rate going to be?
Stuff that's unpredictable.
Yeah.
That could affect those numbers.
How many June gloom days are there going to be?
Is there going to be a pandemic?
How many red tide days? Remember the summer of red tide?
Oh, for sure.
Freezing cold whole water. Summer, red tide.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk?
Cold water, red tide.
And you go, okay, but you forecasted this. Yeah. My crystal ball was broken. I'm sorry,
I know.
So, anyway.
I like it, and that's good advice.
And you do your best, and you try, and that's all you can do. And you have fun. You have fun.
Yes.
Main thing.
So we're up to the current present day. I want to wrap this up, JP. This has been amazing. I mean, this is our 4-part thing. Oh, I finished my drink. I got to drive home. So we've really covered the gamut from beginning to end of JP Patterson. Is there any final thoughts you want to throw out there? Any, what do you want your legacy to be, at least in the bodyboarding sense? Let's kind of tie it back to bodyboarding here. I mean, you're still involved in the sport.
Legacy.
Yeah. Do you want people to think back on JP Patterson as, man, that guy was what?
Did the doctor call you? Am I sick? Hey, JP's only got 3 more
days.
JP's only got 6 more months. Be nice to him. No! I tried to buy yours, you rat.
That's right, you did.
Pugger, he sold it to somebody else.
I did.
We're friends. He sells his truck to somebody else.
That's for another show.
Rat bastard. Anyway, no, I don't want a legacy. I want everybody to just have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You
treat each other right.
So recently we lost Tom Morey.
Yeah.
If one person after I'm gone says, JP learned from Tom Morey. I by watching JP, I saw Tom Morey.
Yeah.
That would
be
that's all I
icing
need.
On the cake.
That's all I want.
That's awesome.
Because Tom was such a gentle spirit.
Yep.
I don't know if I could be that gentle. Super intelligent.
Yes.
Ultra creative.
Yep.
I'm not that smart. But you know what?
I don't know about that.
He taught me have fun.
Yeah.
And keep your toes in the sand.
Yeah.
Kick your shoes off. Put your feet in the sand and get wet. And that if everybody in the world would do that, if we could get Vladimir frickin' Putin to do that, fucking I'm going to send him. We're going to send him a boogie board.
Yeah.
We're going to send that, and I'm going to give him a lesson.
Okay.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
But that's what Tom Morey did. Is
Yes.
he wanted everybody to have fun. He
Yeah.
wanted everybody to experience the ocean. There's nothing more fun than boogie boarding. You know. So your grandmother can do it. Your granddaughter can do it.
Mm-hmm.
How do I know? I'm a grandfather.
Yeah.
I do it. My grandkids do it.
Yeah.
And everybody in between.
Well,
and you can't be mad, you can't be sad when you're on a boogie board.
Right. Well, this, the spirit of the boogie has brought us all together. It brought you and I together many years ago, and that's why we're here together today.
Yeah,
I think that's
you were going to be a teaching drummer. You were going to be a teacher and a drummer.
I was.
And a singer, an opera singer or something.
Right. Well, I did sing and still do sing, but yes, I think this is a perfect way to finish up this show. So, bodyboarding is sort of the great equalizer. It brings us together, appreciation for each other, the ocean, the sport that has given us a rich life, It
really has.
And I mean rich in the sense of what great experiences. And we've covered a lot of those experiences that you
can't
had
buy
through
that
your life.
stuff.
You can't, and thank you to Tom Morey and to the bodyboard for giving us all these life experiences.
Amen to
and it's
that.
not over. There's more to come, man. We're not in the ground yet.
Not
JP.
yet, man. No, and that's true. You gotta.
We may have more road behind us than ahead of us, but there's more to come, man. And we're still healthy and able to get out there and.
Well, and maybe in 5 years or 10 years, we sit down again and we come up with another 5 hours of tape.
I like it.
Air.
It's a date.
Perfect.
Hey, thanks for the margarita. I really appreciate it, JP. And we've been friends for a long time. Let's keep this going. And it's been an awesome 4 shows with JP. This last one's.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks,
I know
folks.
that you're probably shaking your head half the time, but
no, you know what? My audience loves these stories from the past, and you're one of the OGs.
Well,
I hate hip hop lingo, but OG is appropriate in this case.
Learn from your elders, everybody.
Yeah.
Take what little nugget of information you've learned here and utilize it.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you do. I mean,
right. Yeah. So
other than that, my whole life has been a waste of time.
Well, no,
I should be still smoking weed. I guess.
This show has been a lot more than many of the other interviews I've done. We've just talked about bodyboarding, but we've talked about life experience, life philosophies on this one. This one's got kind of deep, man. So thank you for all the time.
Make your circle of influence better. Just make your little section of your planet a little bit better. And that, whether you pick up a cigarette butt, whether you mow somebody's lawn, whether no matter what you do. I mean, that's what Tom Morey would have done.
Love it.
And
that's what Marcia said at our paddle out.
Exactly.
Remember?
Honor what Tom. You want to honor Tom? Make this world a better place.
Love it.
And it doesn't take much.
Folks, on that note, thank you so much for watching The Real Deal Show and listening on the podcast, folks. JP Patterson, my guest on this show.
You,
it's been awesome, and we will see you on the next show. I don't know how we're going to ever top this one. So whoever I interview next, you are in deep trouble.
Bring a bottle of tequila.
It'll be better. A full bottle. So that's going to do it, folks. Thanks for watching again, and give us the thumbs up. Give us some comments. Throw any comments towards JP because he is reading the comments.
I am, and I'll try to answer as much as I can.
And he definitely will. So, folks, that'll do it.
All right.
We will see you in the surf.
Aloha, everybody.